What did you think it was when you first started? And how are we flushing now? I mean, even down to the shotgun and ammo, like we found the birds. What are we doing now?
Yeah, I mean, reading the dog is probably the other, like, sort of overall bucket that I would filter through. And it's like what I thought I should be looking for was that still image in a magazine of dog staunchly on point and, bird 10 feet off its nose. There's the grouse. The dog stops and stands there, and I circle around and walk in and gently nudge the bird out of the grass. It flies up, right? Like that image, but that is an image on a wall. There's one behind me over there, right?
I
But
was just about to say the RGS print that
yes,
we're all familiar with.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And that does happen, but there's like it's a moving masterpiece. The dog, the bird, the cover, like being able to read the dog and and follow that dog's through relocations as the bird runs through cover and moves ahead of the dog, like establishing some of those things. And part of it is like early on, like I'm only looking for that one mental picture where a dog is perfectly still and I walk in and flush the bird. But to even believe that your dog could be like, is he like after the dog relocates 3 or 4 times, like is a grouse really
Right.
running ahead of this dog, and we're eventually gonna stick with it and get this thing pointed? I mean, now just by brute force, like I've seen it happen enough times where I know. But it's still always a constant, like, nah, keep trust the dog, keep
Yeah.
going,
Trust the hunter with the longest
letting
nose.
letting it play out, being more of an observer than a know-it-all, that I'm gonna walk in and flush this bird right in front of the dog's nose. Like it's almost just like taking a back seat a little bit, sort of letting it play out, and then constantly trying to put yourself in a position.
And we've learned that because we've injected ourselves into that. We've been in the woods with the guy that, like, the dog will go on point, and then as you're moving up, he starts moving, and what do? They woe the dog.
Yeah.
And then there's no bird, and he's just like, oh, good for nothing, non productive point.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe, but maybe you also told the dog to stay there while that bird put, a different county between us.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas something like you said, it's hard to watch a pointing dog break a point and relocate a bird naturally on its own. But when your bird dog starts piecing that puzzle together, it's uphill from there,
Yeah.
or downhill
Downhill.
from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's funny how fast it catches on, and all of
Yep.
a sudden you bird, 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 and it's just, to your point, you're trusting your dog a little bit more, which is why we get them in the first place. But whenever they flash the first point, some people just forget that they have that nose on them,
Yeah.
and they're just like, now I have to control the hunt so that I get a shot opportunity. And it's like, well, you did it too soon.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to basically remove myself from that process, other than only trying to be like almost like a blocker of sorts. Like, I'm trying to not interfere with the dog at all. I really don't want to say anything to my dog. My dogs freely relocate and do whatever they're going to do on their own. We have developed that trust over time, that I know that my dogs are trying to point the bird. I've seen them do it enough times where I know that they are trying to point the birds. Inevitably, they will bump a bird on a relocate at some point. Like, it's going to
We
happen.
saw it tonight.
Yeah, we saw it tonight. It's going to happen. But I accept and enjoy, like, just not even getting involved in that process. I don't want to control my dog. I don't want to do any of that stuff. It's There are times where you're fighting the urge, or it's like maybe things get a little hectic and maybe you need to settle the dog down at some point. But very rarely, or at least as little as I possibly can, I'm trying not to do that, and I'm trying to just let that dog get that bird pointed, because I again, I got a 4-year-old dog and a 10-year-old dog. I've seen them both do it enough times where I know
Yeah.
that's what they're
They
trying to
earn
do.
they earn the trust,
Exactly.
and they can't earn the trust unless you give them the opportunities to do it.
Correct.
And my dogs know, whoa, I have a remote stop. I'll use it but I have a rule where I don't do it while birds on their ground. And if they're relocating and the bird doesn't fly, I'm not saying anything. As
Yeah.
soon as you hear that flush or you see that flush, okay, I'll
Whoa.
whoa them,
Yeah.
stop to flush, whatever. And the dogs, and theoretically, they learn to anticipate that, like, oh, bump bird, I'm just gonna stop, or
Mm-hmm.
you recall, whatever, fill in the blank. But yeah, to your point, like, let it play out. So many people are quick to brag and talk about how smart their dogs are, but then when it's time for a dog to be smart, they don't even give them the opportunity or
Mm-hmm.
chance to. And then that's how they end up 8, 10 years later. You end up with a dog that, like, they won't even relocate. Like, you've been in the woods with some dogs, I'm sure that, like, you can go kick them over. Like,
Yeah.
they're not going to relocate on a
Yeah.
running bird because it's just been corrected so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you learn to read the dog, like you'll most people that have dogs, I think you pick up on like intensity
Hmm.
of point, and you kind of read those subtle things about your dog. But like, if your dog is standing there intense, like they smell something, and the bird might be right there, or the bird maybe moved off. And if you give them that chance, like you kind of walk in, make that flushing attempt, eventually, like if the bird's truly not there, like my dog, and every scenario is really quite different, but like they kind of start to soften up and they start to look around. They kind of like look at you. Then it's like, then I know, like, okay, bird's not here. And I don't really have a release command. My dogs will just kind of eventually move on. Then they sort of move up in the direction they think. And that, when that happens, I'm moving into flush, right? If my dog starts to move on a relocate, I want to stop. And Jerry Coulter always said this. He's like, when the dog's moving, ideally, you want to be stopped, standing, watching, observing. When the dog is stopped, that's your time to move. And you really see it when you have something established, you have a contact established. Dog is stopped, so I'm moving, making the flush attempt. This was something I fought for a long time, wanting to like just get pulled into the dog, right,
Yeah.
right up to the dog, 10 feet away from the dog, and do that meager little flushing attempt. And the bird is 25 yards ahead and flushes out, and you had no shot. So I'm I'm trying to make I try to make a bigger flushing attempt, keep moving in front of the dog, and you'd be amazed. I mean, if you'll be amazed like how far those girls will run, or how far ahead of the dog they will be after the dog has pointed 2, 3, 4, 5 times. It's just crazy how far those birds will move. And now I just enjoy that. Like, it took me a while to learn that and to see that and to read that. Now I just kind of enjoy that roller coaster ride
Right.
of like,
It adds a little extra flair to the whole,